breaking news on this deadly plane crash in India. A health official there confirming to CNN at least 290 people have died after a commercial airliner crashed just moments after takeoff. The death toll includes most of the 242 people on board the plane, as well as people in a medical building that the Air India jet slammed into in the western city of Ahmedabad. Officials say at least one passenger survived, and were told he's a British national who is being treated at an area hospital. The crash was caught on camera. We do want to warn you, the video may be distressing here. It shows the plane losing altitude just after takeoff, falling from the sky. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashing, igniting a fireball, and causing a chaotic scene on the ground. It shows rescue crews and residents using hoses to douse the flames and search for survivors. This Air India flight had just taken off from India's western city of Ahmedabad and was bound for London's Gatwick Airport. Let's go down to Nada Bashir, who was at Gatwick. Nada, what more are you learning?
We're here at the airport where that plane should have landed just in the last hour. And it's here at Gatwick Airport that authorities have set up what is being described as a reception centre for relatives, family members and friends of those who were on board that flight before it fatally crashed just shortly after takeoff. And as you can imagine, this is a huge moment of anguish for so many of those relatives and friends waiting for further updates and for confirmation around the condition of their loved ones. Of course, as you mentioned, the vast majority of the 242 passengers and crew member on board that flight, according to local officials, are believed to have been killed. Remarkably, we now have confirmation that there was at least one survivor who has been identified as a British national. It is, of course, so that investigators will be keen to speak to this one survivor, tell more about what took place on the flight prior to the crash. At this stage, it's unclear whether perhaps any other survivors may have been recovered from the debris of the plane. Important to underscore, of course, that we are not just talking about the destruction of the actual plane itself, but the residential area where the crash took place. And of course, it's understood that the plane impacted a hostel for medical students at a nearby medical college directly. We've been hearing from officials from this medical college who have said that dozens were injured and taken to nearby hospitals for treatment. At least 3 are believed to have been killed. 3 medical students and others are said to be in intensive care. And as you mentioned, we have had that updated death toll, including both passengers and crew on the plane and those in the local area, according to a doctor at the local hospital, which has been receiving those injured, and of course the bodies recovered from the wreckage. At this stage, 294 people are believed to have been killed, and of course this is now becoming a multinational investigation, given the fact that there were both Indian, British, Portuguese and Canadian nationals on board that flight. And we have confirmation now that both the United Kingdom and the United States will be providing assistance and sending investigating teams to India to provide support on that front. Brianna?
All right, Nada Bashir, thank you so much for that report. Let's get some analysis now on this. We are joined by CNN transportation analyst and former Inspector General at the Department of Transportation, Mary Schiavo, and also commercial airline pilot Josh Gerard. Josh, you've seen it looks the way it would be landing, right? But obviously it should not be. It should be gaining altitude. What do you think about what you were seeing?
Yeah, this video and the CCTV video that we've recently seen too really gives us a good idea and helps us delineate, one, the things that we do know and don't know to lead the investigation from. Clearly what we're seeing here is we don't have any kind of catastrophic malfunction where there's a wing falling off, a large explosion. So what we're seeing is the plane is actually continuing to try to pull up. So we see that angle of attack continuing to increase throughout the takeoff, telling us that there was an issue with power and or lift, which is what caused that plane to eventually sink and crash. So now we're looking at one of really 3 routes. One, we have some sort of engine malfunction which wouldn't produce enough power to get that plane to continue to climb, or we're looking at an overweight issue, which once again just didn't allow that airspeed to continue to allow the plane to climb, or unfortunately we may be looking at a pilot error, something that was going on in the cockpit that once again didn't give that plane enough power and enough speed to continue to climb, and we went into a stall by exceeding the critical angle of attack, and unfortunately landed in back on the ground.
Mary, what do you make of those scenarios? What are your impressions as we watch that footage?
Well, I agree with the scenarios, and of course there's always the possibility, because I had worked on the Boeing 737 MAX, of some kind of a control issue, control failure, computer failure. But this aircraft is just the most modern, most advanced in the world. It has not one flight management system, but three: one that's active, one for a backup, one for a spare. It has another system called the Common Core system, which coordinates all the different controls, etc. So if there was some kind of a failure in that, in addition to the three scenarios that the captain just mentioned, that would be another one that I would add. The second video that has surfaced, I mean, there's no indication of bird strikes, because often that's an issue on takeoff when you're, low and slow and still climbing out. And, I'm sure the captain looked, and I looked really hard to see if the RAM air turbine, which is an automatic turbine that will automatically deploy, usually underneath the plane, to give it some hydraulic power, some electrical power, some additional power to keep the instruments going, and I didn't see that either. So whatever happened was very, very fast, and the pilot was able to get this alleged Mayday call out, which perhaps has more information.
And so, Mary, is this investigation is going to be taking place, and the NTSB says it has a team of U.S. investigators heading to India to assist. You have different nationals on this plane, 4 different countries. How is this going to play out? What are they going to look for?
Our office 200-300 meters away from our center hospital. Our supervisor and our team rushed to the scene, and they found that aeroplane is crashed. But we didn't identify that it is a passenger or someone other plane crashed. Then we found that it's the passenger plane.
And you rescued people from the hostel also, at least 25 people.
25 people rescued from the hostel.
Right, so that's an important point, because what we are talking about in terms of casualty is not just the crew members and the passengers of the aircraft, but also those who were undergraduate doctors inside this medical college. They were here to have their lunch, and I just want to quickly show you how far the debris have been flung apart. This is the second part of the plane, which is on the front side of the hostel building, and then just beyond that, perhaps you can see my video journalist zooming in on the remains of the luggage. That's all that remains of this air crash. All of these debris, just span that side. These are the debris outside the medical college hostel mess, and for the next half a kilometer or so, which is about 1/4 of a mile, this is all that you're seeing. Debris and parts of the Indian Airlines aircraft that crashed. And even as I'm speaking to you, maybe in the ambience you can hear, that's another aircraft which has taken off from the Ahmedabad airport. So the sound is quite loud because it's just outside the airport wall.